If your TI liners suck, then watch this video. We're going to bring them back to life. Alright, I'm going to show you how this guy works and some of the reasons why it doesn't cut good. So, one common scenario I had when I was younger is I would have a pair of TI liners that were great. I would chip a tooth, or the blade would get dull. I would change the blade and they cut like crap. I'm sure that's happened to everybody. Another scenario is I bought some just straight out the box that were just weak and they didn't cut good at all, and I adjust and adjust and adjust, and you either finally got them or they were okay, and then sometimes you get some and they just hit. You're like, oh man, these are mine. I'm not letting these go for nothing. So let's open the inside, look at the mechanics, and I'll explain some problems. Alright. So how these work is, it's a magnetic motor. So here is your motor, and this is the armature, right? This moves the blade. So when it's on, it goes, so it pulls, pushes, and the blade moves back and forth, real fast. So over here is the tension screw. Now this can be tightened or loosened. Now this puts pressure on the blade. So if it's too tight, it's going to create a lot of friction, and it's going to get hot. It's rubbing, the blade's going to get hot. It's not going to move freely too, because it's pushing too hard. So if you turn this to the right, it tightens it. The same things apply. Lefty loosey, righty tighty. So you can see where it's at right now. It's almost at the bottom. Now these come all different ways from the factory. Some are at the top, some are at the bottom, some are in the middle. So generally you want to look. First thing you do is you get these, you look where it's at from the factory. You open them up, you adjust the blade. We'll talk about zero gapping a little bit later. You adjust the blade, and then when you put the two screws back on, you can put it at the top or the bottom just from the screws. There's play. So a lot of times is when people had a good hitter, they would change the blade, and then they would not have the tension the way it was before. This would either be at the top or the bottom, which I'll show you, because you can scoot the blade up or down, left or right. Another thing is, we'll get into that later. So if the tension screw is too loose right here, when you go to bald someone out, you're balding them out, and it starts snagging and is pulling hair, that means you have to tighten this screw. Okay? So what you do is, when you're tightening or loosening, it's a quarter. It's a quarter of a turn each time. You see this? Bam, that's it. Because you don't want too much pressure, you want too loose pressure. And each clipper is different. That's why some work better. So you kind of have to get the feel for it. So that's why you look at where the blade is, where the tension screw is, before you zero gap them. So this way you can put it back to where it was. So if it's perfect right there, then you just put the blade back. You can scoot it down. You take a picture, or just remember, hey, it's in the middle. Then I'll go into other stuff from that later. So to get these to hit, obviously when they come from the factory, they're safe. They're too far back. So what you have to do is you have to scoot these up a little bit. So you take the blade off. All right. Easier said than done with one hand, but I gotta get this done for you guys. All right, hold on, bear with me. All right. Now, this spring has a lot of tension, I can tell already, because it popped the blade off real hard. Boop! So that tension spring is out there pushing. Alright. So, zero gapping. To me, there's two different people. There's people that are lining themselves up, and there's barbers. If you were just lining yourself up at the house, you can probably zero gap this thing because you're just going to be hitting your front. If you're going to be on the back of people's necks, cutting little kids, people with lighter complexions, you know, light-skinned people, Mexicans, white people, mixed people have real sensitive skin most of the time, black, white, whatever. You don't want these on the edge, because if they're on the edge, it's gonna bite a little bit. So you loosen up these two screws right here. Loosen up these two screws. And now you can adjust the blade. See, the blade moves up and down. So what you want to do is, you want the first blade, this top blade right here, you want it to be slightly over the top blade. Does that make sense? You don't want it to be even. You want the cutter blade in front, just by a little bit. There's two reasons too. You can get more hair in there, because if the blades are even, it kind of pushes hair sometimes, and it pushes out the way because it doesn't feed into the notches, and also it cuts easier. So you put it back a little bit. You know, you have to eye it. You make it, you know, straight as you can, and then you tighten it. Usually I like to tighten this back one first right here, because when you tighten it, the blade will torque a little bit and move this side up. So if you tighten this front one right here, it will kind of twist this blade up a little bit, and sometimes you have to go and do it again. Now this just takes time. You're gonna have to adjust it. Maybe one time. Sometimes you'll get it the first time. Sometimes it will take you 4 or 5 times, 6 times, whatever. So sit down, adjust the blade, and then when you're ready, when you got it good, there's a couple things you can do. You can rub your finger across it like this, and you'll be able to feel, if you feel this bottom blade kind of like snagging at you, that's not a good thing. And you can also use the back of your thumb, your fingernail, and if it's, you know, scratching really hard, it's generally going to be on the sides, you know, because one side is going to be up higher than the other. So you keep working at it till you get that. So you tighten back up these two bottom screws. Now when you put the blade back on, keep this loose or open. Keep this loose or open so that you can see where the blade fits on the back. So hard with one hand, but When the blade's on here, it can go, you know, you can wiggle left, right, up, down a lot. So sometimes you'll put the blade on and then the tension screw will be all the way at the top. If you push it up at the too far, the tension screw will be at the bottom. So that's why when you looked at it from the inside, you can tighten it a little bit, look at it, okay, that's where the tension was, and it was perfect. So I'm going to keep it like that. If the tension, if it was either pulling or if it was too loose, you're going to tighten a little bit, try to center it, and then go back at it. If it's just like, if it feels constricted, if it gets hot, then that tension spring is probably too tight. You just, a little bit, 1/4 of an inch. And then one last thing, when you get this guy on, this blade, and you screw it back in, you can move, because the top blade is attached and the bottom blade is on the thing. So you want, this right side is where the pulling goes. So it goes like this, zoop, 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 zoop. So you don't want your blade to be too far to the right, because then it's going to hit over here on that corner, and it's going to cut people on this corner, because it's going back and forth, and that this when you're doing a swoop or something, it's going to be real sharp. So make sure that you scoot the blade while it's on, and you adjust it, and you keep it all over here, because the blade just pulls from this side to this side. And you can feel, when you get it adjusted, just tap it on your wrist, rub it on your wrist. If your wrist gets red, you hit the corner, tap the middle. If your wrist gets red, then you're gonna have to push the blade back a little bit, or, you know, scoot the blade when it's attached, scoot it over to the right. So I'm gonna zero gap this blade, and I'm gonna re-put it on real quick, because I have one hand, so it's impossible. But I'll be right back. All right, so I zero gapped it a little bit. Let me see if you guys can see. Just a hair on top, you know, so that the skin, if the skin gets in there, there's a little bit of you know, leeway, because you don't want loose skin in there, you know, and it's terrible. Everyone's done it, and it sucks. So now, with this open, let me see my skills, my one-hand skills. Alright. Hold on, I'm gonna just tighten these real quick. I'll be right back. Alright, I'm back. Now I just barely loosened the tighten the blade. So let me show you what I was talking about. That's all the way down. Now if I tighten the blade, this is where it would be. Now look at all this. I can push it all the way up and push it down a little bit. So that's quite a bit of a discrepancy if you're just throw your blade on there and you didn't pay attention to where the tension was. So now we know where the tension was before, so we can kind of keep it where it was. Now this was at the very back, so I might have to play with this spring, but I have never cut with these, so we're gonna see how they cut first before I start messing with them. But sometimes you don't get enough tension with this, and you have to actually pop it out, push it forward, and we could do that later. But that's not something you want to just jump into, because you might not have to do it, and it's just unnecessary. It's just sometimes the springs are just not good from the factory. So I'm gonna test these out. I'm gonna kind of push them. And here's what I was telling you about here with this. So you can slide the blade when you tighten the back. See that? You can move the blade. So you want the blade, when you tighten it, you want the blade closer to this side so that when it pulls over here, it doesn't cut on this side. So if you keep it, you know, too far over here, like, you know, if it's way too far over here, or if you have cutting when you're swooping or redness, then you can just slide this back a little bit with these back screws. You just got to loosen and tighten them. That's what I'm talking about. And that's about it. So after you've adjusted the blade, you keep it, the tension where you have it. Test it on your wrist. Just rub it around there. Tap the corners, tap the corners. If you're not red, they should be good. Shave your neck, you know, so you're not shaving people's necks and leaving them red or whatnot. Once you got them good like that, you just kind of basically know how they're working now and how everything goes. That's about all you can do to these things. Adjust the blade a little bit. Keep a little bit of space between the two blades so that it's still cuts decently crispy. It doesn't have to be ultra crispy because you're going to hit it with the blade. This is your tension spring. Usually I want mine higher up. I usually want my tension spring in the middle to the top. But this is how they came from the factory, so I'm going to check them out. And see, what happens is, if I loosen this from here, it might be too loose. That's when I might have to adjust the spring, but I'll let you guys know. That'll be another video. And then, you know, that's about it on these guys. So I hope I helped anything, helped you guys. If you guys have any questions, comments, if you guys know something I don't know, let me know. If you like the video, let me know, or hit the like button. And I'm gonna zip this guy up. I'll probably tap my wrist real quick and I'll show you what I'm talking about, and we'll be done. Alright, so I feel decent. See how they feel. Cut a little bit of hair. Hit the corners. Corners are good. And then, you know, rub the top of the blade. No snagging. You'll feel it. You'll know what I'm talking about. You're like, oh yeah, that's sharp right there. In barber school, I used to use my fingernail, and if it's all, you know, it's all scratched up, I know. I was like, oh yeah. So not too red or anything. They don't feel sharp, extra sharp. I'll see how the tension is with the tension spring and everything. If you guys have any comments, questions, let me know, and I will get back.